may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so I've been talking about this a lot this offseason, and honestly, I think it's one thing that a lot of people get wrong when they are drafting their fantasy teams. And the majority of the time that you're watching a video, listening to a podcast, reading an article, what people are talking about, because it's the easiest thing to talk about, is median projections. What is going to happen 33% of the time for this player compared to what's actually the entire range of outcomes and what you can find for someone with their 90th percentile outcome and going, what happens if they go best case scenario? Do they have league breaking upside? Because we know the one thing in fantasy football that matters over all else is accessing the 1 to 2 players that literally break leagues every single year. I mean, if you got a Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack last year, you know this. I mean, back in 2019, literally Christian McCaffrey had a 33% win rate, where if you identified Christian McCaffrey in 2019, got him in the early first round, and then you went on to win your league a third of the time based on that one player. Keep in mind, guys, that the average win rate in a 12-man format is going to be 8.3%. And then you go through 2018, 2017, both those years you were chasing Todd Gurley. And in 2016, you were either chasing David Johnson or Le'Veon Bell. So I really want to place the emphasis on what we are doing throughout really the entire draft, is we are trying to identify players that not necessarily are shoo-in to be high-end running back twos. Now, of course, if you can get a guy like that in round 4, round 5, round 6, then yeah, you do that every single time. But when we are talking about the first round, the second round of drafts, I mean, it's elite upside or bust. It's having that league-breaking potential, or I don't want them. If we were taking someone with a high floor and doesn't necessarily have access to that elite ceiling, might as well just draft a wide receiver there. Might as well just take Tyreek Hill. What are you doing taking a running back when we know running backs are going to have a much higher bust rate? But anyway, I'm going to be very excited to reveal our running back for this video that I believe has access to this elite level ceiling. But before, guys, please go down there, drop a like on this video. Let's try to get this over 300 likes the first day it's uploaded. And also subscribe to the channel. We've literally been getting like 50 to 60 subscribers every single day, which is ridiculous. I thought that everybody who watched these videos was already subscribed to the channel. Apparently, that's not the case. And yeah, that's it. Let's dive into Antonio Gibson here. And so with Antonio Gibson, this is a running back that right now is going at the 1-2 turn in terms of high stakes redraft leagues. The majority of the time, you're going to find Antonio Gibson as an early second round pick, as his ADP is 15 overall. And the running backs going directly ahead of him include Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, and Aaron Jones. And the running backs going directly behind him are both Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Joe Mixon. Now, if you pull up our rankings, which will be available very, very soon over there on Patreon, you are going to see that we actually have Antonio Gibson ranked higher than a lot of running backs ahead of him. We have him ranked as the running back 10 in redraft leagues this upcoming year. We have him ahead of Najee Harris. We have him ahead of Nick Chubb. Now, I understand everybody's going to be hearing that, losing their minds. And I will admit that if you're looking at median projections and you're going, okay, who has a better bet to be at the very minimum, mid running back 2 this upcoming season? Yeah, Nick Chubb definitely has a higher floor. But like we established at the beginning of this video, what we really need to be doing when we're chasing running backs is trying to identify players that have access to that Christian McCaffrey, that Saquon Barkley, that David Johnson league-breaking potential. And I think Antonio Gibson has that access, because you go through and we remember the kind of player that Antonio Gibson was coming out of college. I mean, if you've been following the flock for a while, you know that nobody was higher than we were on Antonio Gibson coming out of Memphis last year, because we have a very simple method in trying to evaluate these running back prospects coming to the NFL level. You need to see the size with their BMI for them to be 3-down running backs. You need to see the speed for them to have that breakaway run potential. You need to see the receiving down capabilities for them to play on all 3 downs. And you need to see the NFL draft capital, which should lead to them having opportunity at the NFL level. Now, let's compare Antonio Gibson to the best running back prospect of all time. And now, by far and away, the best running back prospect of all time was Saquon Barkley, who goes at the second overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. He ran a 4.40 40-yard dash. Obviously, all of his measurables at the combine were ridiculous. But to go along with this is a running back that was 6 foot, 233 pounds, and he had close to a 15% team college target share, which we know indicates that this is a running back that's elite in the receiving game. And while Antonio Gibson last year, so many people got things wrong. I mean, people who literally are accountants with their day job, and for whatever reason, they think because they have a fantasy podcast, they can sit down and they can watch the all 22 tape of a running back in college and be better than NFL talent evaluators with that player coming into the league. Now, don't tell me why they think they can do that. I personally don't understand. But anyway, they were way too focused in on the fact that Antonio Gibson didn't necessarily have it on tape. He didn't have the ability to run between the tackles, which we know that if you focus a little bit too much in on that, you're going to be finding yourself with a lot of Darrell Henderson coming out of Memphis in that 2019 draft class rather than what actually matters. And here with Antonio Gibson, if we go and we look at those boxes that actually matter with why we are so high on him, I mean, he was selected in the top 100 picks of the NFL draft, so we know that he's a running back that is going to have access to go through and be a starter. He also is 6 foot, 228 pounds, so he has prototypical 3-down bell cow size, essentially the same as Saquon Barkley, and the speed is right there as well. He runs a 4.39 40-yard dash, literally 99th percentile. You can't ask for anything more than that at the running back position. And yes, at wide receiver, we really don't care that much about speed, but at running back, it is definitely a big piece of the puzzle, as we outlined with our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide for the 2021 class and looking at historical hit rates for prospects coming into the NFL. And then also, just going to the college target share, this is a running back that played wide receiver in college, so we know he's going to be a fantastic player with what he can do in actually catching the ball. And now, if we go over to Antonio Gibson and what he did his rookie season, and we compare him to Christian McCaffrey, because that's a big thing that we're looking for. We're trying to see if there are any similarities between Antonio Gibson and league-breaking players. Well, first, we need to actually identify the season that Antonio Gibson had in the correct light, because we know Antonio Gibson in week 12 suffers a foot injury. More specifically, a toe injury that, yes, he's able to come back from at the very end of the year, but the snaps are down, the juice is down. A completely different running back. We can pretty much look at Antonio Gibson before the injury and after the injury, and it's a night and day difference. So let's just look at Antonio Gibson in weeks 1 through 11, which is a massive sample size. That's more than enough to evaluate Antonio Gibson. And in those weeks, he was the running back 11 in points per game. And what's surprising with Gibson is a lot of people, including myself, I thought that he was going to be a running back getting heavily used in the passing game his rookie year. I thought the majority of his production would come from actually catching the ball, maybe average 6-7 targets a game, and hopefully get his carries up to 10 carries a game. But no, the exact opposite happened, where a lot of people were worried about him not necessarily getting usage in the passing game. They were worried about him running between the tackles. He showed that he's a more than capable running back. He can run between the tackles. He averages over 12.5 carries a game. He has 3.5 targets a game, which honestly, I expect that number to go drastically up. This is where the big leap is going to be coming for Antonio Gibson, because there's no reason that a former wide receiver in college is going to continue to average that mark through his NFL career. I think we can naturally assume that the big reason that he was taken out of the game in obvious passing down situations, beyond J.D. McKissic being a more than capable receiving down running back, we can easily acknowledge that, but it's because he played wide receiver in college. What was the hardest transition to the running back position was actually going to be pass protection, where, he had no reps with that at all. And knowing how thin that quarterback room was, knowing how they desperately had to protect Alex Smith, it makes a lot of sense to just not have Antonio Gibson in the game in obvious passing down situations. And now he's had a full year under his belt to actually go through, develop that part of his game where he can stay in there, because we know he can catch the ball. That's understood. He was running routes at wide receiver. Of course, he can run much simpler routes out of the backfield. And he got all the usage at the goal line at the same time. This is a player that averaged a touchdown a game. So with Antonio Gibson, those are fantastic marks. And what's surprising is Christian McCaffrey, his rookie season as well, was the running back 11 in points per game. But what's different between these two running backs and what I really want to highlight is the fact that Christian McCaffrey, he actually came through with a ton of targets per game. I mean, he was very similar with the amount of carries per game, but he had over 7.5 targets, which is why I don't think that you're looking at Christian McCaffrey as a one-to-one comparison with Antonio Gibson. I think that's not necessarily what you want to be doing. And instead, we can easily find a running back that Antonio Gibson profiles more a lot closer. And this is going to be David Johnson. Okay, so with David Johnson, you pull him up a very similar size to Antonio Gibson. 6'1", 224 pounds compared to Antonio Gibson, 6 foot, 228 pounds. And at the same time, I mean, the athletic profile is similar. Both running backs, or at least quote unquote running backs, were fantastic receivers in college. Both guys drafted in the 3rd round, and their rookie seasons, I don't want to say look identical, but look extremely similar. Because you pull it up and Antonio Gibson already went through his stats, but David Johnson was actually the running back 14 in points per game his rookie year. And David Johnson actually averaged close to 8 carries a game, averaged 3.5 targets a game, very similar to Antonio Gibson. That's the main thing I want to be pointing out here. Now, he averaged 65 total yards, 3/4 of a touchdown a game. But if we look at the jump that you actually had with David Johnson going into year 2, what is most notable is the jump in targets that he actually had. So he went from having 3.5 targets a game his rookie season to having 7.5 targets his second season. And he also, of course, bumped up the carries because he became that workhorse running back, which we know based on the BMI that he has, based on his size, Antonio Gibson can easily be that. He has the frame to be a running back seeing 20 touches a game. And David Johnson this year broke fantasy leagues. He was the #1 running back in points per game, and he was going in the exact same range of where Antonio Gibson's going in redraft leagues right now. And now a big thing is trying to figure out exactly how Antonio Gibson could possibly get to that amount of usage. How could he be a running back that all of a sudden is getting 20 touches a game? A big thing that we need to be doing is we need to go through and look at where did the other touches in this offense go last year, because we know that Peyton Barber and JD McKissic both got a decent amount of usage, which of course kind of cut what you would expect from Antonio Gibson, specifically in the receiving game because JD McKissic was getting so much usage on passing downs. But if you look at this right now, so the combination of both Peyton Barber and JD McKissic averaged over 11 carries a game last year. They averaged close to 7.5 targets a game, 77 total yards a game, and they had 7 total touchdowns on the season. Now, there are a ton of reasons to expect that volume for both of those running backs will go down while Antonio Gibson's value will go up. I mean, obviously, you have Antonio Gibson going into year 2. Historically, we have seen massive jumps for running backs going into year 2. But to go along with this, Antonio Gibson had his first season ever playing at the running back position in 2020. I think that you would naturally assume that the jump between his first season ever as a running back to his second year will be even larger than what you're having with the running back that played all of college at the running back position. And then they go through and still can develop after their rookie year. Well, Antonio Gibson just started developing his craft at the running back position. So I think it's safe to assume that he is going to take that natural jump plus some. And on top of this, if you look at Peyton Barber, JD McKissic, it's not like these are extremely talented running backs. I mean, in the case of Peyton Barber, I actually think that there's a chance that he doesn't make this roster. You pull up his contract, he's only owed $300,000 on the dead cap, and that deal that he has signed for this year, they would be paying him over $1.5 million. So this is a team that can say pretty much $1.5 million if they decide to cut Peyton Barber for this upcoming year, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibilities at all. And on top of this, Peyton Barber going to be 27 years old, never a great running back to begin with. And JD McKissic is going to be 28 years old this upcoming season. So I think it's kind of safe to assume that this volume is going to get drastically cut for these secondary running backs. It's going to be given to Antonio Gibson. And if you go through, and obviously you're not expecting Antonio Gibson to get all of this. It's impossible to project a player to be close to 100% of the snaps like what you had with Christian McCaffrey in his peak usage seasons. That's such an outlier. You can't expect that. You're always going to be expecting the running back 2 on an offense to be getting some touches. So let's just give Antonio Gibson half of the touches that those other running backs had. And let's see where he would line up compared to David Johnson his sophomore year. So if you give Antonio Gibson half of those touches, he goes up to 18.23 carries a game, 7.2 targets a game, and 118 total yards a game. So we compare that to the carries and targets David Johnson had to see if this is a reasonable expectation. And David Johnson made that leap into year 2. He himself averaged 18.3 carries per game. So right next to Antonio Gibson with 18.2. He averaged 7.5 targets a game right next to Antonio Gibson with 7.2. And with Antonio Gibson, this is not a just bum. I mean, he is one of the most athletic running backs in the NFL, if not the most athletic running back in the NFL. I mean, he's faster than Saquon Barkley. And of course, I don't think you can say he's the same overall type athlete that Barkley is. But I mean, if you're looking at the profile, Antonio Gibson's going to be fantastic. So I know we have given so much hate to Terry McLaurin and his draft price, but trust me, guys, it's not like I'm just out here against these Washington players. Antonio Gibson, I think I'm going to be drafting him a lot at the very beginning of the second round this upcoming season. I mean, I would be taking him over Nick Chubb because I think that Antonio Gibson has the access to come through and provide us that league-breaking season based on him having the potential to see 80 receptions in a year that Nick Chubb simply will never see. And I know that's going to be something that nobody really agrees with us on. But please, guys, if you have any strong opinions on Antonio Gibson or me ranking him ahead of Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, and Nick Chubb, let me know down in the comment section below. And yeah, that should be it, my dudes. If you enjoyed the video, please go down there, drop a like. If you did not enjoy the video, please go down there, drop a like. And yeah, subscribe to the channel. I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for everyone joining the flock in Will, Wesley, Ethan, Sabres, Jonah, Austin, Andrew, Doug, Brandon, and Adam. Thank you so much, my dudes.